cast, ahoy and g'day once again to ye mateys! I be your inspired and overheated host Josh the Pirate, and it brings me more joy than watching my little dog run around on the top of a pool cover to stay cool, to welcome you back to Corsair's Cove. It's adorable. She's not very heavy, so she can just run around on it, and it slowly sinks underneath her feet, but it never gets deeper than about her ankles, so she's just like, this is lovely. And I welcome you back to Corsair's Cove for a table talks with most of the cast of Elements and Evil. Followed maybe by a little bit of Jackbox, maybe. I don't know, maybe a bit of Jackbox games, perhaps. But to that end, I have with me the stellar Daria Surname Redacted, the astral Mr. John Best, and the cosmic Karen Schlink. No. And I didn't even need to Google synonyms. I just did that one off the top of my head. So let's talk about these wonderful beans, shall we? Daria, who the absolute heck are you?
My name is Daria. I'm an artist. I do character portraits for the channel, sometimes emotes, and I'm also commissionable. And I'm here on Thursdays playing Julio Switchgear, Rogue Pope.
Rogue Pope.
Rogue Pope.
I love that. Yeah, and
makes
if you
it sound
want
like he sneaks up on you and then, you know, religious as you.
Yeah, baptizes you out of fucking nowhere.
There's no knock on the door and then, would you like to hear about Jesus? He's just there in your living room.
About Jesus. Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers.
I'm under your bed.
Yes, if you want to see Daria's art, pretty much our entire collection of Daria's character portraits are on a side scroll over on the side of the screen. Hey, Ned Halla, good to see you. Abis, thank you for joining us. Laurite, hello, my lovely person. Look while editing Raw. Ooh, I love it. And Terrace is here as well. Hey, guys, how are you going? John, who the heck are you?
Hi, I'm John. I've been a performer for about the last 20 years. Recently moved over to DevOps in obviously a very logical career progression. Yeah, today I ate a plate of mashed potatoes in the shower because at this point, why not?
In your shower?
How did you fit that in there?
I know, even the plate was difficult to get in because it's that small a shower.
That is a level.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Jen was angry.
No. No,
I'm going in the shower.
You know, skill.
Because you can bang your elbows.
John's shower is a
shower.
tube, basically. It's just
that takes fucking skill.
That's impressive.
I've half thought about making it a Twitch channel, obviously just from the waist up. I mean, you know, but just of eating stuff in the shower, you probably shouldn't. A whole bunch of like pork crackling.
You'll get a lot of perverts, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. But maybe I'll make some money finally.
Dip your fingers in the mashed potatoes. Put the gravy on it. I'll put you in 10 subs.
Oh yeah, you've convinced me not to anymore.
Yeah, I know, right?
Thanks for that.
Maybe an OnlyFans eating in the shower.
Only gravy.
Only
Karen.
gravy.
Karen, who the heck are you?
Hi, I'm Karen, sometimes known as the Mother of Buddies. I'm a performer, a writer, an internet addict. I hang out here a lot, often playing Baldur's Gate 3 and getting ridiculously overexcited when I discover cool details in the game because Josh finally got his wish. His wife is a video game nerd.
Just one game, but look, we'll
just for one game, but it's more than it was before.
I'm sure Ardana will get her onto a Divinity Original Sin eventually, which is made by the same people. So, damn it! Now Terrace is hungry.
Like I finally watched The Last of Us, and like part of me wants to play the game, but part of me is also aware that I didn't like the flood in Halo, so the odds of me enjoying the infected in The Last of Us are pretty low.
You might be able to convince Karen to play Power World. You would not be able to convince me. I have watched, and I'm like, yeah, I don't see.
Don't have this. You are 100% correct. Yes.
Yes.
DevOps has got just enough knowledge to be absolutely dangerous. And I was an intern, and they were like, "Hey, here are the keys to everything." I was like,
"You fools!" And I be Josh the Pirate. This is my Twitch channel. You can find us here doing D&D sometimes and doing D&D related things other times. And if you want to see more of my D&D related content, you can go over to our !YouTube where, I don't know why it's not typing, there we go, YouTube, and our Shorts channel, there. I can't spell. YouTube. Yeah, it doesn't have 2 T's in it. There we go. Yeah, the Shorts channel now has my creative work 3 different times on it. And if you want to go and check out that would be super cool of you. And smash that subscribe button if you wouldn't mind, you bloody champions. Because
Josh, can I give you a quick little suggestion? I know how you struggled with writing these every time. Why don't you shorten it? Exclamation YT, exclamation dis, exclamation something. That's
not a bad
gonna
idea.
save you so much time.
Not an idea, thank you. You're loving my shorts, thank you, Abis. I like them too. You mean right on yes.
The camera's not pointed that low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I gotta say, you would not love being in the room when we film those because we set it up in the bedroom and like we have to turn off any and all cooling mechanisms to film. So by the time we're done,
it's green screen, so we have to have the big lights pointed at.
We have to have the
green
big
screen.
lights in there, so it is like so hot.
5,000 channel point redeem. I think that's cheap, to be honest.
I mean, depends on the subject. You know, if it was
Depends on-
Karen,
yeah, if
the
John's-
cost would be different.
I am
John's-
wearing shorts.
Yeah, if John's got a plate of mashed potato in his lap, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if the internet's ready for that level of like
I don't know
hot
if it'll ever
crotch.
be ready.
No.
We
Don't know
already
if John will ever be ready.
This is an 18 plus stream. Already have that much. No, Bishop Blood, no. Don't want to be in your bedroom.
Not when there's 3 heat producing filming lights set up. Josh has his hand in a puppet up to the elbow and there's no air
The
circulation.
puppet
or
is only
cooling
up to the
whatsoever.
wrist, but I do actually also have to have my arm in
With the jacket on,
a
yeah.
jacket sleeve because I need a
Yeah.
black arm covering all the way up. The puppet only covers up to the wrist. It's you know one of these puppets, John. This is Conan, the one like you had the black one at the wedding.
Also, there is like a black screen precariously balanced across the bed and a dog that refuses to wait outside, so insists on being in the hot room with us.
What
Because
a
Love you too
combination.
much. Yeah.
yeah, she just won't wait outside. And stop threatening me with a good time.
Yeah, we can only do we can only record 2 1-minute videos at a time. Otherwise, we pass out from the heat. So we have to, yeah. And today it was 41 degrees, I think.
No filming today.
Yeah, but we did write the next one. It's written and ready. Alrighty, cool. Well then, Karen, could you tell me quickly about Gaza?
Oh, it's awful. Every time I learn more about it, it's just more layers of awful. So if you are able, there is a link in chat for the Save the Children Gaza Emergency Appeal. You can donate there, which would be amazing. And if you are feeling the pinch of poverty, don't worry. The second is the link for the Gaza Crisis Petition, which you can sign, which will be passed on to the Australian government to hopefully call for more aid and a ceasefire.
Would be nice if they ceased firing. Charity pennies? Yeah. Okay.
Silly Australians, just be colder. Wait,
Well,
try.
Melbourne was trying that last week, I think.
Yeah.
Parts
All right.
of Australia try very hard to be cold. Tasmania tries very hard.
Lovely, yeah. So, the point of what we're doing here today is a bit of a table talks, which is when we get together and talk about what's going on in the season, what's going on in the show. And this is actually going to be the first table talks of Elements and Evil. We haven't had done one before. We have had 5 episodes so far. We've had a new character come in. We've had several new portraits or updated versions of the portraits done. And so, yeah, things have begun. Things have progressed apace. Yeah, chat. So, we'd love any questions you have for the cast, for the characters. Yeah, you're very welcome to throw them up, and we will. I'm kind of shaking like a whippet here, but that's COVID heat and a slightly rainy day. Oh, Paris, do you have COVID? Do you have the COVID? I hope not. Detailed explanation of the planes. Fully detailed explanation of the planes. Says
Oh,
Bishop
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, let me get my thing out. Let me get.
Wait for him to get his chart.
No. Where's my chart? I heard it as soon as I said it. I was like, that's gonna. There we go.
Get me thing out. All right.
We're back on the shorts again.
Which-
Everyone in the house has COVID. Me, the baby, my cousin. Oh no, at least one
Oh,
of the
God.
ferrets. Terrace,
Oh.
I'm sorry to hear it. I hope everyone's okay.
Yeah.
As in comes
That
through
sucks.
it. Yeah. That's me, Humblewood. Okay. did I
Whereas
not-
I've been unable to ascertain whether my cold is COVID because apparently all my rat tests expired and no longer working.
Oh.
I'm like, oh.
Okay.
Bugger.
So, at Bishop Blood's request, the planes and the demi-planes. In order, there is obviously you have life, fire, earth, air, water, and death. Then at the border of the life plane and the fire plane is what is called the brightness plane, which I envisage as being mostly a very overexposed desert. Probably populated with sort of cactuses and that sort of thing. Then the cross of life and earth would be the air. The plains plane, the plane of plains, which think the steppe basically, just huge, vast, rolling hills, and yeah, fairly monotonous. I think quite treacherous. You could get easily lost there just because there's almost no like points of reference. Then life and air is the plane of clouds. Vast tracts of land. Yes, exactly. The plane of clouds is. I envisage quite a strange place where the clouds are in some places solid enough to walk on, and a lot of flying creatures, a lot of obviously when you combine it with air, but things that graze on floating spores and stuff. Like I reckon Hiscalia were originally native to the plane of clouds. And the first examples of them were brought to the material plane from there. And they feed on floating, like little islands of floating material covered in and cloud. Then like that, but similar but different, life and water is the plane of coral, which I reckon would be cool as heck.
Yeah.
And little coral atolls, so it's not just all about the water, but everything is water centric. And then of course life and death, the plane of void, which
Dun dun dun.
I imagine sort of like the astral sea. So yeah, time and place are somewhat meaningless there. Then talking about fire, the plane of fire and the plane of earth meeting is the plane of lava. Though I learned recently, lava and magma are the same thing, but magma is when it's underground.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, cool.
It seems an odd thing to
Magma.
make a distinction between if it's technically the same thing.
Yeah. So yeah, probably more like the plane of magma.
You just like saying magma.
I do, liquid hot magma.
Well, Bishop Blood makes an excellent point useful for volcanism.
Yeah.
Volcanism? It's like, well, clearly I mean it is inside the volcano because I called it magma.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, okay, yeah. It's a technical distinction. I don't think it really matters to everybody else. But yeah, the plane of lava or magma. I reckon that would be quite an interesting one to examine, to go to, not necessarily to live on. The air
Like, how
and
are you supposed to visit the plane of magma? It's
Magma.
literally magma.
Yeah.
Like,
the astral D is bigger.
it's the plane of fiery death, really.
You just have to put on a lot of sunscreen, that's all.
Yeah. SPF 1
So
million.
much.
Yeah.
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 just sit in a jar of it, really, and move yourself around. Air and fire is the plane of storms. Just kind of massive hot upwellings of air, bring out constant, cyclones. Fire and water would be the plane of mists, which I think could be really quite cool to play with. And fire and death would be the plane of ash. And yes, a lot of these I have a very clear mental image of what that would be like. And yeah, the plane of death, the plane of ash and the plane of lava would be quite close. And it's basically like a before and after photograph. Then earth and air would be the plane of peaks, which is, imagine the floating mountains of Pandora, and you've got that. That's pretty much the way I see it. A lot of air demiplanes are bits just floating in the air, I guess. The earth and water is the plane of marsh, or plane of, and not the plane. There's a distinction as well, because the plane of water and air and earth is marsh. The plane of water and death is bogs.
Which
Basically
one
a
is
marsh,
the one?
but dead.
Which is the one where you can kind of bounce around on it, where it's kind of squishy and bouncy? Which one is that? Is that bog or marsh?
That's more bog, I think.
Because there was a video of these guys that were out in something, and it was like
mean
a
a
trampoline
bayou?
made of moss.
What's the difference between a bog and a swamp then?
One has Shrek in it.
Thank you.
I think it's I think swamp is. I've always gotten the impression bog is stagnant. So there isn't any flowing water, whereas a swamp, I think there is some degree of water movement. Would be my guess. Quadrupoptree agrees it's probably bog you're thinking of, Karen.
I think it is bog, but
Hey, Quad.
I'm not sure.
And then, of course, earth and death would be the plane of graves, which I think would be
That's cool.
super cool, and I love the idea of. Exceptionally morbid, obviously, but yeah, really cool. Air and water
Where
is
all the goth kids go to party.
yeah. Air and water is the plane of ice, kind of tracks, and air and death is the plane of dust. And that one's one of the ones I'm interested. I'm not actually sure what it would be like. I have a mental image of it like an interior of a disused house.
I was picturing the ship in Sunshine that they go to.
Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah. And then of course water and death are bog, and that's the lot. That's all of the elemental planes and demiplanes. And other than what we have explored and what has actually been demonstrated in the show, that is about the information I have about them. I haven't done any other work other than naming them. I have some idea of some of them, of what some of them would look like. I really want you guys to go to the plane of peaks at some point. I think that'd be hecking cool, particularly for an all bird folk party. And it would probably that would probably
one non-bird folk person.
yeah. Yeah, so many, all fascinating. Thank you, Treasure. Yeah, I really like this concept, and I really like playing around with it. And my intention for the Elements and Evil campaign is very much this is going to be about the elemental war. Has always been sort of that was the thinking, and bringing in Buhawi, who was an NPC bought by Rovaljax ages ago, who is an Aarakocra. He would probably be from the Plane of Peaks, or possibly the Plane of Clouds, something like that. One of the demiplane. And so yeah, you are meeting more and more of this. There is more and more blending, and the material plane is essentially what happens when you mix all six together. Is in my head the sort of the headcanon. Plane of nature instead of the material plane. I mean, it functionally is, yeah. It's basically just, yeah. It's not a demiplane because it's all of them. But the I don't know if I want to say it because it would be maybe too much of a drop. No, I'm not going to drop that just yet, but it's a very cool lore. There is a little bit lore going out there. So, yeah, I hope that answered that particular question. I wanted to ask each of the cast what is something they would like to see happen.
In regards to the planes, or just in general?
Just generally, something you would like to see happen in the game. What's the difference between the plane of clouds and the plane of air? More cloud. I suppose. There's more clouds on the plane of cloud than there is in the plane of air. I also think it's more about what inhabits it. It's not nearly as inimical to certain kinds of life. I think that was my intent, because the plane of life is the other half of it. So, yeah. Got me, I
there
guess,
are different types of cloud formations as well. So you could make it more of that sort of distinction, like water-heavy clouds.
Yeah. Basically,
Dominate the plane of clouds. The more wispy,
My thinking was it's all about those clouds on which things can actually exist, rather than just. I mean, clouds themselves are fundamentally life-giving. That was sort of where I was going with it in my head logic. But
if it's life influencing and air, maybe the clouds themselves could be like sentient, or at least in some ways alive, like huge jellyfish or something, just like floating, doing what they would want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Crisp and Crunch wants to know why the material plane is not made of old denim or corduroy. Haven't been watching yet. Has anyone checked on Helvig lately? No, nobody has. We lost him. I think in World they lost him about 5-6 days ago. And Smoothie could sending him, but I think there's at least partially an element of let's not do that, because then Josh would have to pretend to be Helvig when Helvig is an actual player, who isn't just not available right now. Also, they kind of think he's dead.
He's not dead.
Yeah.
He's busy.
Plane of petals. What was the air is cloud, and air plus life is the plane of petals. I love the plane of petals.
Yeah,
that is cool.
That's a hot place to take someone on a Valentine's Day date as well.
Write that down.
We're gonna go to the plane of petals, babe. Gonna get you all the flowers.
Or
So efficient.
Oh, I don't want to go to the plane of spores. That's less fun.
Or just
So you
plane of
take your
leaves.
ex on Valentine's Day, you kidnap them and take them to the plane of spores.
That was said in exactly the same tone as Dylan Moran. No, not Dylan Moran. I forget Eddie Izzard. Oh, I don't want to go out with you. You're covered in bees.
You're covered in bees.
Honestly, like watching The Last of Us, like it's that moment where you know too much, and I'm like, mushrooms, funguses produce spores. Why is no one talking about spores? There should be spores everywhere. Is this just not a thing? Am I going crazy?
Do you
And then I
want it
looked
to
up
be
the
a thing?
game,
This only
and
makes it
in
worse.
game, the spores are a problem. They just left it out of the TV series, and I'm like, presumably because it would have made everything too difficult. But yeah, because I'm just like, the concept of spores freaks me out.
Karen and I were discussing. So my uncle, like my family all have an inherited thyroid condition, and it's very unusual. Most of the time, it's not genetic, but in my family it is. And my uncle, there's some quite simple corrective surgery you can have. It doesn't even have to be surgical. I had mine. My thyroid, it's in your neck, it's a little gland, and I had mine irradiated, basically killed about 70% of it, and now it has significantly less function, which means it doesn't work as hard, which is good, because it was killing me. You can
Very slowly.
You can just take drugs to suppress it, and my uncle does this. And his logic was always, yeah, but what if everything goes to shit? And he basically was like, but what if the apocalypse? And then we won't be able to get the drugs that you have to take, because if they miss by even a small amount, you wind up having to take a replacement instead of a suppressant. So one way or other, you're taking drugs. But he was like, yeah, what if you have to take the replacements? I'm like, well, one way or the other, you're going to be needing something because the suppressant is necessary too, idiot. Also, why do you think you'd survive in an apocalypse situation, Mr. PhD in astrophysics? Like... So anyway, yes, let's talk table talk. So yeah, what would something be that you would like to see in game? Doesn't have to be huge, but something that maybe you'd like for your character, or an event that you think would be interesting. This is sort of me going, hey, ideas, ways to talk to you.
I have one that is like pretty huge, but I also think that it would be very cool to see when Aldehard actually becomes one of the Amaranthine, because I don't think we know anything about the process of how it happens. I don't think that has ever been documented.
No.
They just, some of them were existing and then became Amaranthines in legend, and to witness that event would be, I think, very, very cool.
From memory, it is a legend, but it is in the book. It is sort of alluded to how it happened. That at least the birdfolk Amaranthines were very much. There was sort of a gathering. All the birdfolk wanted to sort of give thanks to Ardea and Titan for creating the world and so forth. And a bunch of them went really above and beyond with their presence. And
Oh, they're those people.
yeah,
Is that the basis of being a god? Just bring a cool present and receive god powers? That sucks.
Well, so the one for Gesme was always trying to figure out what the sun was. So demonstrated her intelligence and bravery by flying to the sun. I'm like, which demonstrates neither of those things.
What were you thinking?
Gets real badly burnt and brings back a branch that's on fire with fire from the sun. And Ardea was like, that was some ballsy move, babe. All right, yeah, you can be a god. I'll make you the god of intelligence and knowledge. And I'm like, why?
Not the god of being on fire.
Well, she's also that.
Nice. It's closer to the god of curiosity or something, because like that's not intelligence. That's just being real curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
The god of stupid ideas late at night. Oh, man.
What if I flew to the sun?
The god of 3 a.m. intrusive thoughts. That's what it is.
Oh my. That is the god I accidentally worship.
Altus captured the moon as a gift to Ardea.
Okay.
And
that's closer than the sun.
He also made the mountains by lifting the earth.
Wow.
Altus. He's the Strig god.
Oh, yeah, Strig, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Were these guys hammered when they were doing this?
Yeah, so like it seems that they were not just normal humble folk or bird folk in the first place. Like that is not a feat that is accessible to normal people. So they already had supernatural powers. They just received like the title of god in that case.
It's kind of like
that would be my guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the Norse gods, how they're like, oh yeah, these are people, but they're kind of not. They're more than that already.
Though.
Yeah. Everybody.
And then Odin hung himself for 3 days and learned how to read. Well,
the third to present the precious gift was Hanera, a gentle birdfolk, and the first to shift her focus away from the sky. Rather than live in the trees with the other birdfolk, Hanera had made a home for herself below the canopy. Shared the soil and the earth, and in return the earth gifted her with wisdom. From the earth, Hanera learned to speak with plants, knowledge that she used to better care for them. She soon earned fame among the birdfolk as one who grew the largest and best-tasting crops. These crops are the finest gift I could offer to our mother, and she set about planting a huge garden, its bounty reserved for Ardea. So that was Hanera's gift.
This one is actually accessible to normal people. This is just like druid.
Yeah. Altus journeyed the wood to test his limits rather than explore, as Rhea did. He gifted Ardea something that she had never seen before. I shall hunt the moon and present it to her so she can see its lovely glow. So
Yeah, that one's slightly less accessible to normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think children tricked her.
Oh, I know.
guess-
The two made one of them
Yeah.
was funny, and it might have been the two.
Yeah.
One of them was funny.
Yeah, that was like their thing. They made people laugh.
God of comedy.
Hastily, she drew back to the ground. Yeah. The oak was hardy and spry and did not wither. Finally, she stuck the tip of the branch in the sun, igniting it. Hastily, she flew back towards the ground. Yeah. So that scares me, the idiot.
Yes, me the idiot. I love that. I love
God of the
that.
Darwin Awards.
At the great rhythm itself. Oh, children gave a song.
Oh, nice.
first-
Okay, so
first-
just a bard.
The first
Yeah, yeah.
songbird. The first songbird, I think. All birds sing. Ever
Okay.
since children's performance, all birds sing, hoping that they might imitate the perfect song he sang to Ardea.
I would argue that not all birds sing.
Yeah,
having
hashtag not all birds.
Objected to certain birds at certain times in my life that were very much not singing.
But that's
Screaming.
only the stories of the birdfolk ones. The humble folk ones are left a little bit more free and open, which is why I've decided that Kren, no, not Kren, that Hath is a sentient constellation of stars. Conan told us about birds. Yes. I'm very happy with that one. That was I wanted to make that one first because it was the funnier of the two, in my opinion. But I am also happy with I like all three of them, and I'm really excited to make the one that we wrote about clerics. So, is Alderheart getting powers from a god? It would be that. It is gonna. And I want to be clear. It's not going to become an Amaranthine. It's going to be a god.
Yeah. Yes.
Ah.
Because it's separate from the Amaranthine lore and everything.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we're getting bits of power from different Amaranthines to kind of like power up Alderheart. So we have
Yep.
one from the cat deity. I'm hoping
bar.
to get one from Hath, and then we'll see. We'll probably need one more for the power 3 or whatever. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Hath's one would actually be very meaningful.
I would enjoy recording the post-credit scenes.
Yeah. The one for the cleric involves the society honoring itinerant theologians, or shit.
Nice. So yeah, to come back to the question, like the becoming of a god would be probably a baller scene, and I think probably a culmination of Julio's career as a pope.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you top that once
Yeah.
you've created
I mean,
a literal
yeah,
god
when
out
you
of a tree?
actually-
What do you do next? Like,
Yeah, you
I-
level up your cult from that to like actually making someone a god. That's pretty badass.
If you're a pope before you've even got a deity, and then you could straight up make one, yeah.
So what is the difference then between, maybe you've said it already and I just didn't clock it, between a god and an Amaranthine?
I suppose it's like levels of power, really. What would essentially happen, and it actually goes back to lore that I haven't put into the world yet, but there are 6 gods above Ardea and Titan. That it's not commonly known, but they are the elemental planes. They are gods. Essentially, what you're looking at doing is probably turning the material plane, the older heart, into the 7th.
Oh yeah.
And
Wow.
the lore, and this is, I will tell you because it's hecking cool. This is what I was like. Julio, Braun, Cash, and Eric do not know this, but I don't know how I would get it into the world otherwise anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Ardea and Titan tricked the elemental planes into creating the material plane in the first place.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
What did they do?
Because they were constantly fighting and like all the elemental planes have living beings on them, and Adair and Titan were like, what if we trick these squabbling deities, which are more powerful than we are, into creating a place where it's safe for these little beings to live, where we can protect them. And then they created or raised up a sort of cadre of lesser deities to help them protect the material plane and the people who live upon it. So that tracks with why most of them wouldn't have an issue with making the material plane a deity of itself.
Aha.
Which is
It
why
would be
none of them are getting in the
fulfilling
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you're gonna make a specific thing to take care of this? Dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Bishop Blood puts it quite well. Ascended versus transcendent. Yes. Actually, in a single phrase, yes, that is the difference between a deity and an amaranthine. A god and an amaranthine. Both are deities, but it's how you get there. I have not done a huge amount of work on the origins of Adair and Titan, but yeah, they are the mother and father god. It doesn't necessarily make them gods. So yeah, there you go. Abus asks a meta question: is the Humblewood on Roll20 good value for a long quest? If it is the book, which I imagine it is, it has just come to D&D Beyond as well.
Yeah. I saw that.
Which is very cool. And for the first week, it's like 30% off. It's not overly expensive. It's cheaper than just buying the book. But having the book is nice. It's a really good book. It's well made. It's the same size and scale as the core books of 4.5e. They're not paying me to say this either. So if it's anything like that on the Roll20, it's not a super long campaign. It's levels 1 to 5. But obviously there's a lot of material in there for you to take it and make it your own and make it longer. And there will probably be more support ongoing for making it a longer story. The Humblewood 2 is already in the works. It's in beta testing now. But you have to be a Patreon of theirs, and I was like, nah, I don't want to. Well, because I wouldn't be able to play it live, because it's in beta. So they don't want me spoiling it, which is fair. Also, having read a lot of their lore, I'm like, I wonder how close it's going to be to what I've done as well, which is going to be fun. Humblewood Tales has 5 more adventures, plus the Heart of Darko. Yeah, exactly. There's loads of other supporting stuff, and I've run about half of it on this channel already. We're playing some of it now. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, Avis. What do we reckon, John?
Unfortunately, the first place my mind went to was Mecha Pope, which is not necessarily where I want to go, but I know it will be funny. Pope versus Mecha Pope. That's not what I, John, want.
John, I have a question on that then. Pope versus Mecha Pope is actually a funny, cool idea. Do you think there is a specific set of circumstances that would actually pit our characters against each other, like Civil War style? What would
really
take
interesting
for us to get like that? Because both are very like friendly and pacifistic, right? What would be the thing for this?
I think as soon as you said Civil War, I was like, yeah, it would be a difference of opinion on some other third topic, like how to go about doing a thing, where, I think Bron and Julio would be like, no, this is a better method for doing it. And, if you take that to the extreme, you put them in extreme circumstances where they have to decide one way or another, and it makes a big difference. I think that would be one of the few ways I could see that happening, where they would actually end up on opposite sides. In fact, it would probably be easier if they were separated and made those decisions independently, and then we're like, oh crap, we're on opposite sides of a war.
Yeah, we have to commit. Yeah. Because otherwise, if we're discussing something, we'll probably come to like a middle point. That's just something unavoidable.
We'd be like, we will forge a third way.
Yes, I think if we were separated and we had to like decide something about the fate of Alderheart, that would be fucked up, because Julio would always be for Alderheart to be stronger, better, and Bronn doesn't have that connection, and I don't know how averse Bronn is to godness and all that, like extra influence.
I think Bronn, and probably stems from John as well, like has come into this fairly just being like, gods, what? Like, as far as Bronn knows, like the Old Heart's cool because it's the source of the magic that he uses. But it being alive, I think, has kind of not really occurred to him before, and that makes him a bit nervous of like, I hope it's okay with what I've done with it, cause I've done stuff. So, yeah, I think he's just a bit more like unsure and unexperienced in the alive part of the magic, and has just been like, oh, cool, this is a source. I can get it to do stuff, and like, I like doing stuff with it.
So has Bronn actually done stuff with life magic?
I think that was my intention when I was making the little toy robot in the chapel.
Okay.
It was like, cool, there's magic here. It's about like things being alive, and like, yeah, let's make a little alive robot thing.
Love it.
So yeah, I think he's quite inspired when and like, I think most of his magic comes from the rhythm.
Yeah,
the great rhythm, because that would just be that constant source, and it's everywhere in Humblewood. But to actually be like, oh, there's a sentience behind that, probably hasn't crossed his mind.
Yeah, well, so an interesting distinction then, because the magic that is flowing through the tree at the moment is coming directly from the plane of life. So what Bronn was playing with was life plane magic, not all the heart magic. All the heart itself does not possess any inherent magic of its own yet.
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 Pivotal word.
Yeah, right.
Which is interesting because Julio, again, not cleric either. He is, all of his magic is his own. It's not coming from he doesn't have a huge amount of magic, but what magic he has is all his own. It's not from a different source. He's not a warlock. We considered warlock of the tree. Tree lock.
That would be interesting. Tree lock.
It would be interesting, but I think with lore and with how the story progressed, I think the bard is a better option.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Julio's like power comes from the like more than the belief and the like inspiration and encouragement he gets from the tree, and wants to like disseminate that to people, which is less supernatural and more about like just believing real hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, warlock always feels more contractual and like.
Yeah.
How did you have a contract with the tree?
With the tree, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you have to make me a god. Well, okay. Yeah. Karen, what do you reckon?
Ooh, what do I want to see? I'm really interested in kind of encountering some sort of story beat that lets us learn more about Bronn's history. Because he is like the newest character, and like we know a bit about him from what we've been told, and you know what like Julio knows. But like so far in the adventure, like the rest of us have kind of had one kind of cool like adventure moment where you learn something about the person's past or like what they want, and I'm excited to, because Josh was always going to do it to Bronn eventually, but I'm excited to see how that pans out. Like my character went to the fucking land of the dead and talked to a god and got a dope cheek tattoo, so you know.
But this is the thing, like I think Bronn is not necessarily averse to becoming some kind of like cleric-ish type thing when it comes to the tree. He's not anti-religion. It just kind of hasn't occurred to him yet. But like, also, this is where I have to reveal that I wrote Bronn for the two-shot and was like, yeah, I'll probably write another character for a big campaign, so don't have to do a huge amount of backstory. And I have it in my head, but it's not written down, and I should maybe write that stuff down. Yeah.
Why did you decide to stay with Bronn then?
Couple things. One of them was, it's happening next week.
Okay, fair.
Which is, yeah. But also, it was fun. I hadn't played an Artificer before, and I had fun. And I was like, yeah, I could keep doing this. Yeah, and I have other
Also-
cool like character like origin bits, but they're a bit less apt for the humble folk setting. They're a bit more like dark and gritty and like yeah.
Humblewood can be dark, but I honestly was very happy to know that we stayed with Bron because our characters are very connected. Because like that was also a thing that I was worried about when I was getting into the setting and the campaign, that my character had a very loose connection to what the fuck was happening. Like, it's just a friend NPC that they helped, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll tag along."
It's like, we like you and your hash browns. Come with us.
Yeah, like
Have
that
adventures.
felt a bit like a surface level. So to have Braun at least very connected to one of the characters, and also already have a like chemistry and like rapport with one of the characters, because our characters like each other, they're like childhood friends. That is much easier, I think, to translate into a larger campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Julio came in with specialist knowledge. When they went up against Scops the Beastbreaker, Julio used to be a member of Scops' crew, was how we sort of made it make sense. They were like, hey, we need help here, and Julio's ex-boss, Petra, was like, actually, Julio could probably hook you up. And he also feels a bit bad about how he was a pirate for so long. So yeah, that was how it wasn't like completely out of the blue. Hey, that one guy we met on the road.
Yeah.
But but significantly more connected than like I did feel like you had to it didn't feel forced or rushed, but he became quite close quite quickly with the group, almost somewhat by necessity. But it's fascinating. It's been fascinating to watch 4 seasons worth of it. All of it. It's now the story is Julio's story at this point, as much as it is Cash or Eric's. Like Cash and Eric's initial call to adventure has been resolved. At this point, the primary, and I have taken on we wanted to do a bit of Monster of the Week, or Monster of the every 6 episodes, because that's how long it's taking you guys to do. But like, yeah, short narratives rather than. But what I'm aiming for at the moment is short narratives with the occasional with glimpses of shit's going on behind, Star Trek-esque, or Doctor Who-esque. I recently finished watching season 2 of Strange New Worlds, which is the new Star Trek, and I was like, yes, this is yes. It's exactly what I wanted. Braun's character is great to add to the world. Yeah, I am excited to Basically, the way I go about it is, we poke around the edges until we find a place to actually let's go for a deep dive in this now. So we will learn a little bit more about him until I see something I can really poke.
Also, you mentioned that Cash and Eric's call to adventure is resolved, and we have like Julio's thing now. That was actually something that I was very excited about when we started to get more into Alderheart, and then when we met Kren, that was a catalyst for me to go, oh shit, Julio will have very strong feelings about this, and on the spot there deciding that he would want Alderheart to be stronger than this particular motherfucker. Like that is I grabbed onto that ambition, because until then Julio was just like, yeah, I'm gonna help people, but that's a very broad type of want. And with that one, he's like, oh, I see how these creatures have power. Let's give that to Alderheart and they can suck it.
Yeah. I've always really enjoyed Julio's sort of internal logic on it, of I want something that just cares, like something that will bear your civilization on its back. That is a being that deserves worship. And did it without asking for anything. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Thank you. Alrighty. And I need to say hi to a few peeps in chat. Hey, Janahos. Hey, Dak. Good to see you guys. Thanks very much for joining us. We're doing a bit of a table talk, so if you have any questions for the cast, please throw them up in chat. I do have another one. What's your favourite moment from the season so far?
So many good moments. I have a moment that hasn't happened yet, and that is when Bronn will get the shotgun and strap it to the deep fryer on legs.
Oh!
Uh,
And reclass as an artillerist.
Deep fried shotgun shells. Yes, sounds like an amazing comic book, like
Yep.
visual novel. Mm.
Yeah. I think Bronn could definitely do something with it. I don't even have my notes from when I put it in the world. I don't even know what it's supposed to do because my hard drive died, so I don't even have the notes from back then.
I know. It's supposed to kill something huge, like CR20 type of thing.
No,
you shoot
it was
once
supposed
and
to
it's
kill
dead.
Scops the Beastbreaker, who had like 60 hit points, and it wasn't supposed to do it in one shot. So
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's
as
right.
I recall, it was 2d8 fire damage or something. Like it was a meaningful amount of damage, and it took somebody with fire magic to reload it. You had to get somebody to put a fire magic spell in it. Essentially, it was basically a bound spell.
See, this is the good thing because like one of the infusions is Bronn can just like for a ranged weapon just negate ammo. It's got magic ammo now, and so it loses the loading property, so you can fire it more than once a turn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Auto shotgun. Yes.
My favorite moment so far was the relation about Cash's like beginning of her career and getting into that place where Cash was worried about getting thrown in jail, and that was very cool because in our eyes, especially in Julio's eyes, Cash was already like an established adventurer and member of the Woodland Brigade when he met her. So it's very interesting to get to see that, and that makes me think of areas or situations where the rest of our characters would have to like confront the things that we have previously, right? So, for example, Eric very decisively puts himself away from his family, and now he comes back to it with his own sense of identity. But it would be very interesting to see if any of his family's like past gets to come back and haunt him and grandma, because like they were not always the good guys.
No.
And same for Julio. Like he still spent a lot of time being a pirate, killing, stealing, that sort of
fully
stuff.
intend for that to come back. I fully intend, heads up, Raleigh, to be relevant relatively soon. Yeah.
I was always interested, like I knew that Raleigh would someday appear again. But every season, like every arc that we had, I was like, okay, if she comes back now, I know what's about to happen. If she comes back now, I know what's about to happen. At this point, Julio has like made such a big road of like self-development that I don't actually know how he will react or what he will even like think about Raleigh at this point, because like his priorities have changed a lot. I think even like last season before becoming Pope, he was still like kind of beholden to his past and to that like connection that he had with Riley. At this point, he kind of like transcended the earthly desires and shit. Like his gaze is like on a larger picture now.
Yeah, take care, Terrace. Thanks very much, mate. Bishop Blood asked an interesting question, actually, and I will just bring it up so I don't forget it. You're all so busy with your jobs and adventuring, but has anyone going to think about romance, or is that just Arrow? I don't know.
Aromantic.
Aromantic.
Yeah.
Aromantic,
Someone who
all right.
doesn't feel romantic attraction.
Yeah. Which is an interesting point, because we've definitely played around with it in other games. Eric has a massive chip on his shoulder about Arthur, at least in part because Eric had maybe started having feelings for Arthur. Smoothie has had several people hit on him, mostly because it's fun to torture the teenager, but also, Trish has an active sex life, has been established.
The juice will flow.
I saw that.
And then, of course, yes, it was always fun to tease Jude, who didn't even know what sex was. Yeah, and juice was the sort of analogy they gave them to sort of explain. Yes, so yeah, Trish got laid in the Roots once, and actively considered a 3-way at another point. So yeah, it's occurred, but in this group, it's an interesting question. Yeah, where do Bron and Kesh sit on that?
It's not so much that she's not interested. It's just been a complete lack of opportunity.
Wow.
Kesh just hasn't met anyone lately that's made her interested in pursuing that sort of thing. So, you know, if Josh wants to toss a sexy Mapatch man in there somewhere for Kesh to go for, maybe.
Noted.
It's not the cheesy pose, but
Mapatch man.
I'm going to have some Mapatch emerging from a pond in a wet shirt
So
now, aren't I? I've set
many.
myself up for this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like she's just been too busy staying alive.
Yeah.
Saving the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and unfortunately there weren't any hot Mapatch men around for a cheeky one-night stand.
No. Mapatch man, got it.
I think
Someone's
with Bron-
furiously buying an NPC right now,
Yeah.
and I hate you a little bit.
Hear the ticking of the keys.
Yeah, I think with Bron, it's always it comes back to me, John. I've always found it strange when there's actual people behind the characters.
It's really weird doing it with other people's characters.
It's yeah.
Within party romance is odd as well.
Yes.
And it's interesting. It's I think it's about willingness to role play it with your DM as well. Like Karen, John, and I lived together for 2.5 years, and which I don't know might make it less or more comfortable.
Like, it's funny because like I've definitely played some horny characters,
Damn straight.
and like I've had both the experience of vaguely Josh as a DM being like, sure, if you want to get your freak on, go for it. Roll performance check for your sexual escapades, and like the DM going for it, but like also being like, we're just gonna draw a curtain of, you know.
To be honest, it would only ever be a veil, I'm fine with it if the other person is comfortable with it.
But we're not going to role play it out, you know, grope by grope.
And I've played flirtatiously with several characters in the setting, and characters I play on other channels have been fiercely flirtatious. Terrace is good fun to play with if you want to do that, because we're both massive flirts. And I don't think either of us had any intention of our characters ever winding up in the sack together either, which was fun.
Like, I'm trying to think if I've ever played her on channel.
Bishop Blood says, why not? You'll RP everything else moment to moment.
Look, I have a lot of
and the game
experience
takes
with,
long enough already.
like, thanks to Paparotica, Josh and I are both very experienced in this sort of thing, but we've never improvised it. Which
Well
is the other
choreographed.
thing. It just like, and how often do you roll like performance checks? Is it every like move, or is it an overall performance check?
Constitution
use
saves
cantrips,
to
is
keep
my
If
going.
you roll a 19
Yes.
up front, does that apply the whole way through, or is that just for the first, you know?
Slapping guidance on yourself every 5-6 seconds.
Yeah,
I would like to guidance my blowjob, thank you.
I mean, you wanted it to succeed. What's the DC is the question. You know?
Yeah, can I use my inspiration to succeed at my
Well,
own
if you
sex check?
like,
Yes.
yeah, just I'm not even
Us
gonna.
begging the chat for a D4 to help our sexcapades would be very good. But, like honestly, I think for me it was never like an issue to play. I like playing romance in
fun.
D&D because it's fun, and I separate the NPCs in my head from players very well, so I don't really feel it's awkward. But I would agree with Karen that our life has been so fucked up and so busy.
Yeah.
There was really not even time for anything. For Julio, I assume I think he would be bi, and he's definitely interested
Oh.
in you know, all kinds of things, melons included, you know. So that's just
Oh, Julio's
But-
into some kinky shit.
Yeah, does
Oh,
he cross-dress in the bedroom?
oh, of course, to spice it up, you know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
but again, like it's so like not a priority right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Humblewood of bedrooms and banging.
Yes, next
That's the-
season, please.
It's the up late edition. That's
Putting the
age
wood into
restricted.
Humblewood.
And Kesh
Oh,
just
dear.
needs to find somebody. How about Bron? Yeah, sorry, I didn't let John
Yeah.
finish his answer.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, performer, happy to improvise and stuff, but it's that kind of combination of, yes, we are also saving the world, and also, there is that slight like, yeah, but I kind of know you guys. It's a little strange, so, you know, but not hugely off-putting. It's just it's just like it's a kind of a combination of many things. But if it was to occur, I wouldn't be against it.
I think there can be something quite beautiful about, you know, RPing out a romance
And I
in
think
game.
that's the
if it's
difference.
done
Is a
well.
romance versus like
Yeah.
a fling. I think a fling would be much harder. At least for me personally, but a romance,
It's
like
funny
a
'cause
companionship, would be like, yeah, cool.
I'm in a weird position where I've kind of done both because my
Oh, yeah.
Yennefer Vengerberg inspired character very much had a hot and heavy fling with Jason Lawnmower, the hot boatman.
Jason Lawnmower.
Yo.
I had a little thing for you know, he's my rare exception to the long hair rule on men.
He's my rare exception to a lot of things as well.
He's an exception to a lot of things. Like he's one of the like, and like if you're a man and you have long hair, like all power to you. I'm a woman with short hair. I'm in no position to judge. But generally speaking, I find men with short hair more attractive. Jason Momoa is the exception to that rule. Whereas if like I've seen him with short hair, it's not a vibe. He's got to have the locks. It's part of the thing. Anyway, so the original Katarina of Corvenheim, yeah, and like that was very much part of the character was that she gets around. So we were like we'd hired the boat and like it had been established that, you know, there was a, you know, a crew, and Josh was DMing, and I was like, are any of the crew particularly physically attractive?
So I offhandedly said, yeah, one of them is quite good looking. Actually looks a bit like Jason Momoa. So we decided that was his name, Jason. And then my dad, because he's a he said, oh, Jason Lawnmower. And
Oh,
Such a dumb name, I love
It
it.
kind of stuck.
so it stuck. And I have now played Jason Lawnmower over on GM Workshop.
Jason Momoa's bird folk quack woman. Oh, we need to do like a
Marin Raptor.
like
Marin
Humblewood
Raptor.
Avengers now.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's not the
Quackwoman.
Avengers, is it? It's the Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Quackwoman and Superbird and
yes.
and
Amazing.
yes, Quadrupop Tree. Some dudes do genuinely look better with long
Would
hair.
it
and
be
Jason Momoa's one of
Superbird
them.
or Super Map Patch?
Jason
Ooh.
Mimosa? A
No,
fruity
Matt Patch is
toucan?
going to be Batman.
Yeah.
Batman.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, bat people are a thing.
Like smoothie.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just like
He's a
just
Terran.
random Batman. Like it would have to be
Terran man.
something else. The Terran down the house.
just back to the comments for a sec, Bishop Blood says most men don't know what to do with their long hair. And I think that's part of the thing. Like, when, and I'm generalizing massively here, obviously. Most dudes, when they have long hair, they've just let it grow out.
Yeah.
So it's not in any way kind of shaped or styled. It's just long. And,
It's short hair that's grown long.
Yeah. And no judgment, I've done that. But it's gonna look a lot better if a little bit of, effort has been put into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was an episode of America's Next Top Model where they had this male model come in with naturally really long hair, and they just kind of blew it out. They gave it a really nice shaped trim, and I was like, that looks a million times better.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to my original point was that I had played, I'd played having a fling.
And then V.
And actually, I just realized that's 3 different things, because I played V, where I kind of felt a little pushed into that romance.
Yeah.
Because everyone was shipping it so hard, and like, it's not that I didn't see it as being a possibility for romance between the two of them. I just remember thinking that V was too immature for it. Was still very much in a ew romance sort of stage in her life.
Yeah.
So I think it was really funny and fun where that ended up with them, like, after a while, kind of after all the shit had gone down, that they actually were like, kind of, okay, well, let's maybe try and do this for realsies. Now we're all grown up and shit. But yeah, it was weird and fun. But and like, Nikolai was a great sport with it as well, which always makes it fun. And it was kind of cute for a while there, where his character was low-key smitten with my character, but my character was like, ew, boys. Or ew, romance generally.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it ever came up in story, but V has hooked up with a girl as well. So there you go. If that hadn't come through, yeah, V goes both ways. And then the third one is Ryland in There Be Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Because a serious romance is a big part of her backstory. So when we meet her on the road, she's kind of had this relationship that's ended because, they got busted essentially. And while we're not, in terms of the eps that have gone out, we are not up to
the girlfriend coming back into the story.
Girlfriend, like, their paths, like, not directly crossing, but indirectly crossing.
But she is the girl in question is now, or is in where we're up to with the story is going to be queen.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
But basically,
they're not married yet, I don't think. But
no,
the prince,
it's very much.
The prince is going to marry her.
Yeah, stop talking, Josh. Spoilers.
Yeah. Like it's gonna happen.
Shut up. It will if I have to tie Matt to a computer. And so there's a chance that I am going to have to roleplay their reunion in game, which is a little intimidating because, not least as a performer, feeling like I know that.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to get really invested in a fictional romance, and like I'm a little bit invested in their fictional romance. And I'm just like, I don't want to screw it up. I feel pressure to make that important.
I think that's a good point. Yeah.
But also, like, Ryland's totally hooked up a couple of times on the road. So, Kesh is actually unusual in that she's the character I've played that's probably had no action, romantically speaking.
I tend to go instinctively off what I get from the player, and unless I think it's funny, I initially with Eric, I thought it'd be funny to put in because he was a little bit stiff and awkward at first, so I put in a character that was hitting on him, and that was where I got very strong. I'm not from Brendan, but from Eric, was quite interesting. And later on, like Brennan and I were chatting about it, and we think Eric's probably at least bi, and quite possibly just into dudes. Is acting out a romance harder for you guys than acting out combat and stuff? Absolutely. There is so much more writing on it. So it's, I suppose, for me at least, there is a lot of pressure to represent the character appropriately and properly, and also in a way that justifies and gives the character what they're worth. Doesn't cheapen it in any way. Like playing flirt is fun and fine and easy, but playing an actual romance, way harder. It's something
And
clicks
it's about
romantically. Yeah.
It just it just happens less that you two characters just go bing, whereas like it often happens that two characters go, I have to punch you now.
Like it got me thinking about Baldur's Gate 3 a bit. Because some people are like, oh my god, all your companions want to like
horny as fuck.
All of them want to bang you, and I'm like, I don't have a problem with that per se, because the game is giving you options, saying
it's a fantasy.
I'm just like, it's basically giving you options. You can friend them, you can fuck them, or you can fight them. It's giving you the options. So I never view
giving you fuck, marry, kill.
I've been having fun with the romance section of Baldur's Gate 3 because it is fun. That's why I save scum and do interactions multiple times, so you can see what happens if you ask the drow to do missionary with the lights off. It's amazing, by the way. It
Solid.
was so funny.
But Lae'zel does disapprove.
I had to go to camp, leave Lae'zel there so she couldn't cockblock me.
Wow. I think that kind of leads into one of the I played Dragon Age, the first one, and loved it, and then played Dragon Age 2 and was like, and then I hated Dragon Age 3. But one of the complaints was apparently in Dragon Age 3 they changed it because people were saying, but everyone's so hot in Dragon Age 1. And I was like, but it's fantasy. Like there is an element of this isn't real in these games. And everyone's hitting on you.
Bring up Dragon Age with me in the room. I will have to talk to you after this.
Do you like Dragon Age 3? Because I have so much bad things to say about Dragon Age 3.
We'll discuss it.
This is gonna kick off.
Excellent. Okay, this is the real table talks now. We've got one more from Bishop Blood, and then I think we will call it, because otherwise, fight.
Before we move on, because you just mentioned them complaining that everyone was too hot. I'm like, I don't have a problem with everyone being hot. But I do have a problem with everyone being boring hot, which is why I hated all these mods for Baldur's Gate 3 they've made, where they've smoothed out their skin and made them all really generic, pretty looking. And I'm like, no, they're all hot, but they're all hot in very different ways.
Let's talk about the ones that everybody wants the most. Karlach and Halsin, who are both scarred and gritty and massive doms, but
but gentle dom energy, they'll check in.
Lae'zel is interesting hot. Yeah, exactly.
They're all attractive, but they're all very different and very interesting. And even Shadowheart, who is probably the most generic hot person in the group, she still has the cheek. Maybe
depending on which direction you're going.
Probably Astarion and Shadowheart, even them, they're interesting. So I get really mad when people smooth out Astarion's skin texture and everything. I'm like, no.
I think Gale is too ripped for me. It always bothers me.
There was that discussion about how he couldn't possibly have abs because he lives in a tower drinking wine and reading books.
It's but he doesn't eat anything. He just drinks and reads. So he probably
it's not fitness, it's starvation.
He's thin, but massive broad chest anyway.
Yeah, having not played this game, this is a great description. I have no idea who these people are, and it's thoroughly entertaining.
Will is justifiably cut. We had him with his shirt off the other day, and it's kind of distracting. But his whole thing is being, the brave fighter. So of course he's going to be chiseled. Oh my god! I just realized, because you can buy statues of them in their camp clothes. You could
you can have them bedtime.
You can dress them in a super sexy outfit and then go get statue.
Totally worth 500 gold.
Oh God.
Thirsty Thursday,
I must not. I
masturbate.
must not.
Interesting treasure. Thank you very much. I will go and have a look at the VOD from Fate's Grip. Bishop Blood asked one question that I think is actually really quite an interesting one, and I do kind of want to have answered. Where do these people live?
Great question. I also thought about that myself.
This is good because this is where Bron started. I'm like, I have an answer.
Bron actually
Done.
does know the answer to this one. Does Kesh have a home?
Well, the truth with Kesh is she's spent the last few years of her life being constantly traveling, essentially, as a bandit and then in the Wildwood Brigade. So she hasn't had a chance to put down roots until relatively recently. It's only the last few months where she's really been able to stay in one place. So I imagine she's she would obviously. I assume she has her rooms at Spear.
Yeah.
That she lives in.
She's got an office in the Wildwood Brigade headquarters, which she runs Spear out of, and probably 3 or 4 other sort of a department. Half of one floor is hers, but she doesn't have a room there, like a bedroom. I kind of assume you guys have been living out of your super secret hideout in the trunk, because there is a large communal bedroom in there, which is sort of designed for you guys. Eric has his estate, but he's been out and about a lot of the last 4 months. And yeah, we have been to his place, and we presume that Julio sleeps in the tree church, but I'm not going to answer for. But yeah, would Kesh have presumably the family home?
Well, do her family live in Alderheart? Because
I have never established who or what her parents do. We never even said where where Trish grew up. I don't think it was in Alderheart, but other than that,
in my head canon, I'd never established where exactly she was from, but it wasn't from the Alderheart. Her family doesn't live there.
It would be a smaller settlement, not Bracken Mill, not Winnowing Reach, maybe Ash Barrow, but probably not, because that would have affected things when it burnt down, which doesn't leave a huge amount of options, actually. So a small minor settlement that doesn't have a name on the map.
I always felt like she came from
feel free to make up some lore.
I always felt like she came from somewhere small where there just wasn't a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason she ended up with the bandits, because she didn't have a ton of options where she came from.
Yeah.
And just, the scroungecraft skills that she'd kind of been raised with, and that was it.
Yeah. I reckon I will give you a general location. They were both raised in the area north of the tree, between the tree and the Crest Mountains. Yeah, in the north of the Alderheart. But beyond that, do what you will.
Have to go look at some maps of the Alderheart and think about that a bit.
Abis asks, Kesh and Trish seem to know each other from before the first videos on YouTube. Was that just on the fly, or was there a story before that I haven't seen? At the time, Abis, Kesh was an NPC I made up. Because when Rachel, this was still very, very early, session 3 or 4, I think, Rachel had created this character with one of the 2 backgrounds unique to Humblewood, the Bandit Defector background, because she thought that was quite interesting, and I was like, hells yes, I can play with this. The Bandit Coalition at the time was a big problem, and it eventually became the Wildwood Brigade. And everybody sort of either left it or stayed on because their motivations were good. But Kesh and Trish were both members of that. However, Trish had sort of tried to leave that behind her. They did, however, grow up together. They were childhood friends. And Trish, through a bizarre series of circumstances, met up with an adventuring party and stayed with them. And then encountered Kesh, who was still a bandit, trying to rob somewhere in Windwing Reach a local. He was an astronomer. He was just a scientist, and he had a whole bunch of fancy gear. And Kesh showed up and said, "Hey, I need help with this. The safe, getting into the safe, requires 2 people. The elements of it are too far apart. I literally can't do it on my own." But when Trish refused, which I was surprised when Rach did refuse as well. I genuinely thought this would be something Rach would go for. So I'd written a whole heist that didn't happen. Not a long thing, but yeah, they like breaking and entering and then cracking into the safe. And yeah, it didn't wind up happening, and Kesh got caught because she went and tried to do it anyway. And yeah, so there is no official backstory that you haven't seen. Kesh didn't become an actual character, an actual player character, until 2 seasons later. So it was quite a while, and so whilst Kesh is absolutely now very much Karen's creation, I did the initial work on her, but I did not do an awful lot, and Karen took it and ran, and it's been fun to have that. And Julio is same deal, actually. I did the initial, I named Julio and did a little bit of the build, and then Daria took it and ran, and it's nowhere near what I would have ever imagined doing with him, and so much cooler for it in both cases.
I have a question, actually, based on that for the DM. What is the coolest thing that's never happened that you prepared that for some reason or other
Didn't happen.
didn't happen? Yeah.
Stealing the Hiscalia. They were like, fuck this, we don't want to do any of it, and they seriously considered going back to Alderheart and robbing and stealing an airship.
Oh, that sounds cool.
So there are things in the setting called Hiscalia which are completely my creation. They are floating whale blimps with little gondolas. So an alive sky whale with a little boat strapped underneath it, essentially. And they are one of the sky ships, essentially. And they can dock.
Would be from the plane of clouds.
Yes. I pitched it to AJ when she was doing some world building in her world, and she was like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit my vibe, and I was like, cool, I'm stealing it. And put it immediately into it, and AJ's character in my world, her brother, is the captain of one of them. And it was at Alderheart at the time, because a one-shot heist that we'd done for charity involved it, and it was there, so I was crossing the streams, and these guys said we could steal that, and I was like, oh, Jordan Littlefoot. No, it wasn't Jordan. It was Jordan Littlefoot is a wizard at the Avium, and Jude's older brother. Jude has 16 brothers, and one of them is Jonah Littlefoot. He is a sky pirate, and yeah, I didn't plan it at all. But my brain was frantically going, fuck, how do I turn this adventure into something else? Because they looked like they were seriously going to do it for about 10 minutes until they talked themselves out of it. Because I think at least partially because they could see me going, no!
Yeah, that's cool. That would be fun.
That's a good question, though. I like that, yeah. Alrighty, well, that's hopefully been a little bit revealing. Does Julio have a place he rests his head on the regular?
Well, that's interesting, right? Because he has never really had a home. He's never owned a home. He was an orphan. Then he was with a pirate crew for a long time, always like on the move. He
would have had a cabin on the ship.
Yeah, being a cook on the ship, he would have like his own place. But then he was helping Petra in her shop, so he'd probably have a room there. Yeah. And I think now. I'd like to think that he probably stays in the secret hideout.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a better name for it at some point.
Yeah.
Because we have like the
I anticipate a
temple.
half-hour conversation in game, in character. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have a temple, but we also have the hideout. And it's probably something different. But yeah, he probably stays there now. But it's an interesting thing. I don't think Julio has ever thought about owning a home or feels like he's lacking anything for it because his entire life was like living with so many different people. I think that is actually one of the reasons why he's so community oriented. His life was always very closely tied to a lot
Communal.
of people,
Yeah.
not even always people he always liked, right? He had to make friends and communicate with a lot of kids, different kids growing up, then pirates, now like all the people he knows. It's an interesting like evolution for a guy who has always been a member of community. And I think that last conversation with Cash was also like him realizing that what he was really always like beholden to and always connected to is a community. That's why he stayed with pirates, because they, even if they were shitty people, gave him the sense of community.
Avis says, I have so much lore to catch up on, and that makes me so happy. Yeah, there is, 140-something episodes to watch. And I have gotten a lot better as a DM, but the first ones are still quite fun. I got incredibly lucky with the first season of Flocks and Fire. I did not assemble that crew. That's the only cast I didn't put together of all of them myself. And we just got it right. I brought in Dan and Rach, and then Nova from Roll for Damage suggested Mitch and AJ. And I knew AJ from before, but I'd never met Mitch. And it was just lightning in a bottle. And we didn't, none of us expected it to work as well as it did. But all five of us came out of it going, holy shit, this was the best group we've ever played with.
Wow.
And I
to have someone
now...
you didn't even know.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mitch is an incredible shadow DM. He is a really useful person to have in the party because he moves the story along when it's holding up, when he can tell that the DM wants it to move. He's a very good DM as well. He's an excellent DM. Yeah, that was really fun. And then when I put together the original Monsters and Magic crew, it took us a little while to find the balance, find the vibe, and we eventually did. I think it really hit its stride with Julio, Kesh, Eric, and Bennick. That was a really good group. Yeah, it's interesting how people vibe in the group, and how some people don't. And it's no judgment on that person either. I want to be very, very clear. I'm not saying that I didn't think... The initial team, the initial four, worked really well in terms of the characters of Arthur and Javier and Kesh and Eric. Were a really interesting bunch. But, yeah, it's interesting seeing how the vibe changes. And then Trish and Helvig and Smoothie and Selenox are an interesting one of two established characters and two brand new ones who have something of a connection and very much a connection. That building a party out of that has been really interesting. So it's, yeah, watching A, the players, and B, the characters find the way it works has been really interesting. I like how you make it possible to just jump in and watch, and it's possible to figure out what's happening. Thank you, Quad. Yeah. I'm glad, because otherwise John would be up shit creek without a paddle.
But 100% am not. Like, yeah, it is very easy to just pick up on, the world and the relationships and just be like, oh, cool, I've got enough. This is great. Yeah.
And that, I am now, like, I am very careful with the casting of it, and it was something I learned from doing Flocks and Fire. It was like, you can't just throw a bunch of people together. You do need to have... I look for personality types, and I did very briefly consider having Rhythm come in and be the fourth, but it wouldn't have worked, and 3 of the 4 players pointed out to me, including both Rhythm and and Karen, said, I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea. And this is my little brother. So, yeah, Hugh, John. He has played several
Josh,
sessions.
I have a
Yes.
question. You said that you look for personalities in your mind. Do you have like types or say classes or types of people that are like players that work together well or not?
Who are we?
It's really hard to put it into terms that aren't necessarily insulting.
Damn.
Ooh, flatter me, tell me what I'm good at. To use the Flocks and Fire crew as an example, you had two very competent shadow DMs. You had two very competent comedians. You had a straight man. Rach plays straight man very well. You had both Dan and AJ are very funny, but know when to turn it off. Dan and Mitch are both very good shadow DMs. Mitch, yeah, I always look to have at least one person who can be sort of a backstop, sort of somebody who can identify when the party when shit needs to carry on. Brendan fulfills that role quite well in this group.
Yeah.
I have done it before in other groups, and I was kind of like, oh, maybe do I need to? And I was like, no, I don't. It's fine. It's covered.
Yeah. And then Karen plays straight man quite well in this group. Julio plays comedy, as does Bron, very well as well. And yeah, when Dan was in the party, we had two shadow DMs and two comedians, and yeah, that was. And if you picture it exactly the way I just phrased it, yeah, I had exactly the same balance twice, and that's where it worked. It worked really well. And yeah, sometimes I don't get the balance perfectly right. I love that you do badum-tsh on the drum table, Karen. Eric's unintentional comedy is also awesome. This is the thing. I don't want to say. I don't want to imply that the other two aren't funny, because Karen and Brendan can be hilarious, and Rachel's a corker. They can all be. You can't have more than one person playing a dumb character at once. It just doesn't really work.
Although a Dumb and Dumber campaign would be
Dumb and Dumber, yeah, but one shots works, but for longer form stuff, it doesn't. I have the exact people in my head who are thinking of great explanation, but I'm glad, Bishop Blood. But thank you very much. There was some interesting questions. I hope I managed to answer them, and I got some interesting ideas. Thank you very much. So we'll have a little breaklet, and then come back and do a little bit of maybe a couple of rounds of Quiplash or something like that. Yeah, we're going to take a breaklet. I'm going to put the YouTube link up, and if anybody wants to go and check out our YouTube shorts, they're only a minute long each, so you can go and check that shit out, and we'll be back in 5 to 10. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Whee!